Do you ever get the feeling that people just don't realize where they are? You know how, like, you're in the library and somebody just speaks up really loudly, and it's like, do you have any context of, where it is that you find yourself? I feel like a lot of times that's where we are with people in America. So recently, I've seen that, a lot of people have been talking about the bank failures. Like, oh my God, bank failures are back. It's normal for banks to fail. It always has been normal for banks to fail. Now, there are going to be peaks and valleys, just like anything, right? You're going to see some at other, certain times you're going to see bigger deluges of failing banks at other times. Is it a big deal? No. But is it a symptom of a larger problem? That's a great question. And it's really probably not the answer that you think you're going to get. So, first and foremost, you hear a lot about, especially in the comments on these videos, banks just closing branches. Oh my God, banks are closing branches. Well, why would that be? First, I mean, if you know anything about the banking industry, the trend has been towards everything online, everything at the ATM, everything just as streamlined as possible, and getting rid of the traditional branch for 20 years now? So that should come as no surprise to people, right? I mean, it's not, rocket science to figure out that that's the direction things have been going. But secondly, and possibly just as importantly, it costs money to run these branches. And so if you find yourself paying a lot of money and, not so profitable on the returns, well, then those branches are going to close. And if it comes at a time where, the banks are deciding to tighten their belt, well, that's just how things work. Now, it's funny, how quickly people in general, let's say, forget the timing of, everything that's just gone on. The pandemic, for better or for worse, provided cover for banks to kind of change the way that they did things. I know for a fact that at least one major bank had a 5-year plan to kind of scale down its operations and eliminate good portions of its workforce, as well as, make a lot of things online, et cetera, as well as offshoring, things like that, customer service and other things. But because of the pandemic, it presented them the opportunity to speed that up and use the pandemic as an excuse, which was pretty interesting. And they were able to do it. They were able to do it pretty quickly, which was, kudos to them, right? The only responsibility a business has is to make a profit, or at least a corporation here in the United States, for better or for worse. That is its only legal purpose. So when you think about these things and, every time a bank fails, oh my gosh, run for the hills, it's the end of the financial system. Yeah, probably not. But secondly, ask yourself, really, the world that we live in, do you really think banks are going away? No, it's an extremely profitable business. Now, if you tend to see, banks disappearing in your area, probably tells you you're not in a great area. That's just where the rubber meets the road, and no one wants to hear that, right? They want to think, it's something wrong with the banks or they're going somewhere. No, unfortunately, it's just more of a symptom of kind of where you're at. The bank just does not find it profitable to have a location in your area for whatever reason. Now, again, you go to a more affluent area, you're going to see that there's a bank on every corner, and different companies, they don't care. They're on every corner, and they have no problem, having the staff and the infrastructure in places like that. Why? Because they're going to make money like anything else. I think the thing with, the community is that a lot of them have become kind of disillusioned with the financial system, and they think that, banks are something of a right. I have a right to have a bank where I live. Why do you have a bank? Why are you entitled to have a banking institution? Well, because, what if I need cash, or who cares? Right? Just like everything else in this country, since when does anybody care about what you need? It's about how they can make a profit. And realistically, with your, tacit approval or at your expense, they're going to make money. So, that's just kind of how things work. So it's really crazy to think, that people think that banks are just, they have to be there. They have to be in my community. They have to be. No, they don't. Especially these days where they can do most of the things, virtually. It is pretty crazy though, because again, it speaks to a larger problem that people just don't understand about finance in general. These are businesses just like any others, right? And just because it may be important to you to have, access to these kind of things, they don't care. They never did care. they'll do whatever they have to do to make their profit, and they go in a different direction where everything has to be online. Again, you hear so many complaints of, well, what if my ATM doesn't work? Who cares? They don't care. The reason you're in that situation, again, is because that you are not in a community that they want to cater to. It just is what it is. But thinking that, again, that silver, gold, other things, that those are gonna tide you over, silver, gold just aren't gonna work without a traditional cash economy. It's not going to happen. Nobody has an awareness of gold and silver. Nobody has gold and silver to trade except you and I. It just is what it is. I mean, it would take more trouble to have to explain to someone what silver was worth than literally just if I did something else with money, baked bread or bought seeds. Or much easier to explain, much easier to get rid of than gold and silver would be. Gold, again, I'll give it the leg up. Gold is still, the world's true money, let's call it that. I mean, at the end of the day, give it some credit. It is recognizable on the international stage. But for your neighbor Ted, he's probably not going to understand what gold was worth. It just is what it is. But when you see these things about the banks, it's this big crisis and so this is not the pre-2008 environment. It just isn't. This is another thing, again, that's lost on so many people, that they think that nothing changes. Pre-2008, absolutely. The GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, was a big deal because it was the first time that really that type of contagion really could have thrown a wrench into things. What did it end up really doing? It really ended up just making sure that the Treasury and the Fed is literally in the palm of the bank's hand. Anytime they need liquidity, they make a couple calls, and they have whatever they need. I mean, that is literally how things operate now. So, when you're thinking that this is going to be a contagion and all of the banks, no, that's not going to happen. It's not. And if you ever look back at history, it's, they say history repeats itself. No, it definitely rhymes, but it's never the same song over and over. It's always something slightly different that you couldn't anticipate. So when you see these people just waiting for the next thing, it's not going to happen like that. It is not going to happen like that. The next financial crisis or whatever it's going to be is something that you've never heard of, that you never thought would be a problem, that it just is. It just is. And you're not going to be prepared for it either way. It's still going to screw you. That is the nature of the beast. That being said, again, don't take it out on the banks. Don't, the banks that are evil. They're a business, just like any other corporation, run by a bunch of people inside the bank that don't own the joint, that don't make the rules. They have half those people have no clue what they're doing as it is, and people go in there and think that the bank manager knows everything. They run this. They know nothing. They run they run the shift. They run the business. You know what I mean? They do exactly what they're told, or they get fired. It is just like any other job, but this is the kind of thing that people just don't understand. The banks are leaving. The 13 banks left San Francisco, and it's because of the homeless, and it's because of the no. It's because they don't need branches anymore. Why am I paying for a branch? I don't need to maintain that overhead. I can do all of the same things that I was doing without that branch and save myself a lot of money. That's it. Period. It's not a symptom of a larger thing. This bank's going out of business, or the FDIC had to step in. And that's going to continually happen for as long as you live. Well, it hasn't happened the past 2 years. Oh my gosh, it happened every year before that. So again, when you hear these kind of things, really take them into context and realize that, again, throwing up the boy crying wolf all the time, at the end of the day, it's a big nothing burger, just like a lot of things.